People love to say that getting rich is hard, that it takes luck, connections, or some kind of special talent that only a few people are born with. But what if that's not actually true? What if getting rich is simple? Not easy in the way people imagine, but simple in the sense that the path is clear, repeatable, and available to almost anyone who is willing to follow it. And this idea isn't new. It's something that people like Jeff Bezos have hinted at for years, not by saying success is handed to you, but by showing through their actions that the rules don't change, the game doesn't change, only the players do. And most people lose before they even start because they overcomplicate everything. They think they need the perfect idea, the perfect timing, the perfect plan, when in reality, getting rich often comes down to doing a few basic things over and over again, while everyone else gets distracted, gives up, or chooses comfort instead. And that's where the real difference begins, because the truth is, getting rich is easy in theory, but extremely difficult in practice. Not because the steps are hard to understand, but because they go against human nature. And human nature is what keeps most people stuck exactly where they are. Think about it. If you ask someone what it takes to build wealth, they'll usually say things like saving money, investing consistently, starting a business, learning valuable skills, and thinking long-term. None of these ideas are complicated. You don't need a genius-level IQ to understand them. In fact, they sound almost boring. And that's exactly the problem, because people are naturally drawn to excitement, to quick wins, to shortcuts that promise fast results, and when they don't see immediate success, they quit. They move on to the next thing, the next trend, the next opportunity, never realizing that the real opportunity was the one they abandoned too early. And this is where the mindset shift happens, because people who build real wealth don't chase excitement, they chase consistency. They don't focus on what feels good today, they focus on what will pay off years from now, and that's a completely different way of thinking compared to the average person. There's a story often told about decisions, and it goes like this. Imagine you're given a choice between $1,000 today or $10,000 in 5 years. Most people will take the $1,000 immediately, not because it's the better option, but because it's the faster option. And this single decision reflects how most people live their entire lives, choosing short-term comfort over long-term gain, choosing what's easy now over what's valuable later, and then wondering why they never get ahead. While people like Bezos built everything on the opposite principle, delaying gratification, making decisions that looked small or even pointless in the moment, but compounded over time into something massive. And that's the part people don't see. They see the billions, the success, the lifestyle, but they don't see the years of doing the same things over and over again without immediate reward. Getting rich is simple because the formula doesn't change. You earn, you save, you invest, you build, you improve, and you repeat. But what makes it difficult is sticking to that formula when everything around you is designed to pull you away from it. Social media, instant gratification, comparison, fear of missing out, all of these things push you toward decisions that feel good now, but cost you later. And unless you become aware of that, you'll keep repeating the same patterns without even realizing it. And that's why mindset is everything. Because before you ever change your results, you have to change how you think. You have to stop asking what's the fastest way to make money and start asking what's the most reliable way to build wealth over time. And those are two completely different questions with completely different answers. Another reason people struggle is because they underestimate the power of small actions. They think they need to do something big to change their life, start a huge business, make a massive investment, take a huge risk, when in reality, most success stories are built on small, consistent steps, learning one skill at a time, saving a little money regularly, improving one habit after another. And over time, those small actions stack up in ways that are almost invisible at first, but incredibly powerful later. It's like planting seeds. You don't see anything happening for a while, and then suddenly, everything starts to grow. And people call it overnight success, even though it took years to get there. And then there's the fear factor, one of the biggest reasons people never even try, because they're afraid of failing, afraid of looking stupid, afraid of losing what little they already have. But here's the truth. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every successful person you admire has failed more times than you can imagine. The difference is, they didn't stop. They didn't let those failures define them. They used them as lessons, adjustments, feedback. And that's another simple idea that's hard to follow, because failure hurts. It's uncomfortable. It challenges your confidence. But avoiding it guarantees that nothing changes, and staying the same is the biggest risk of all.
And I said, $2. And she handed me the money without hesitation. And just like that, I made my first sale. And something shifted inside me. It was small, but it was real. And within the next hour, I sold every single bottle, every last one. And when I counted the money, I had $40 in my hands. And I remember just staring at it, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. And I turned to look for the man, but he was gone, completely gone, like he had disappeared, and I never even got the chance to thank him or ask his name. But the lesson he gave me stayed, and the next day I went back, bought more water bottles, and did it again, this time with more confidence. And again, I sold out. And then I started thinking bigger. What if I tried different locations? What if I added snacks? What if I did this earlier in the day when more people were around? And slowly, day by day, I started improving, learning, adjusting, failing sometimes, but trying again anyway. And weeks turned into months, and what started as a simple idea with $20 turned into something much bigger than I ever imagined. I wasn't just selling water anymore. I was learning how to talk to people, how to understand what they needed, how to spot opportunities where others saw nothing. And that changed everything, because it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the mindset. I stopped seeing myself as someone who had nothing and started seeing myself as someone who could create something out of anything. And fast forward 5 years, I'm no longer that confused 19-year-old sitting outside a grocery store. I run my own small business now, something I built step by step, mistake by mistake, lesson by lesson. And every time things get tough, every time I feel like giving up, I think back to that day, that moment, that single $20 bill that felt like the end of everything, but was actually the beginning. And I often go back to that same store, not because I need to, but because it reminds me of where I started. And sometimes I sit there for a few minutes watching people just like I used to, wondering if someone else out there is feeling the same way I did, lost, stuck, unsure. And I still look around hoping I might see that man again, but I never do. It's like he came into my life for that one moment and then disappeared. And maybe that's the point. Maybe some people aren't meant to stay. They're just meant to show you something you couldn't see on your own. And if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that life doesn't always give you more when you ask for it. Sometimes it waits to see what you do with what you already have. And most people spend their time wishing for more money, more opportunities, more support, without realizing that the real difference comes from using what's already in their hands, even if it's just $20. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how much you start with, it's about what you're willing to do with it.